of them and also be able to show you how to distinguish between male and female. Now what you need to look out for is that where the horns meet on the top of the head, the females have got hair and lack the large keratin crown that the males have. I'm just going to wait for the right opportunity. That's a male there. You can see that big crown and bulge on his middle parting, whereas the females will lack that bulge and they will often have a hairy center part There we go. Andrew's found a great example of a female there. 2 or 3 lined up, and you can see how they lack that large bulge. But both do have horns, male and female. And these are the Cape buffalo, sometimes confused with water buffalo, which occur in India. Very different animals. These are quite cantankerous beasts that command a lot of respect out here by both us as humans and also the predators. The Nkuhuma pride, yes, were successful yesterday and luckily without injury, but most attempts when they will try and hunt buffalo will result in a fail because they are extremely large, powerful animals, and they're also very caring and will turn around and often rally troops in order to chase lion off buffalo that they may bring down in this herd. So there's a lot of safety and security amongst the herd, and it really is incredible to witness. You could imagine now if lions were to startle these buffalo, most would run and there'd be a cloud of dust if the lion were lucky enough to bring one down. Once the herd has regrouped, they will come back in and very often chase lion off their prey. We don't get to see these breeding herds of buffalo too often, so really happy to be sharing this moment with you. I think as the season becomes more dry, we will hopefully be getting more visuals of these large breeding herds. It certainly seems to be the trend that we've been experiencing, but during the summer months we very seldom saw them, and it seems to be a slow increase as things become drier. And this is for a simple reason: the buffalo are becoming more pressured to seek out food and moving into areas where they may not ordinarily go in search of food to try and capitalize on unutilized resources. This is a young bull coming to investigate us. Now, as you can see, these buffalo all seem very relaxed at the moment. There doesn't seem to be any apparent threats around. However, we got a report from Jacques that he saw 4 buffalo bulls on the Djuma waterhole camera that came and drank and seemed very nervous and stressed and then quickly moved off, and was wondering if those buffalo bulls were part of the same bachelor party of the unfortunate one that was taken down yesterday by the Nkuhuma pride. It's difficult to tell, Jacques. It certainly is possible. It was only about a mile away from the Djuma waterhole that the kill took place. But I'm not sure how many buffalo were in the herd that one got grabbed out of. But it certainly is possible, Jacques. Or possibly they just got wind of other predators in that area, and naturally around waterholes animals can be nervous. It'll be interesting to know, Jacques, if that happened at night time or during the day, because if it was at night, that may in itself have been the reason for the buffalo's nervousness. And I am told that it did happen last night at about 8 o'clock, so yes indeed, Jacques, I think possibly just the fact that it was dark would have caused those buffalo to behave very differently to how they would have had it have been daylight. Now you may have noticed a lot of birds on the buffalo, the red-billed oxpeckers clambering around their bodies, searching for parasites. And there was one there. There will be possibly hundreds of oxpeckers trailing this herd and doing a great job in helping glean off ectoparasites. Looks like the last few members of the herd are beginning to cross the road, so we're going to have to reposition, and let's get that going now and try and loop ahead of them again. Now, there's quite a few bachelor bulls that trail these breeding herds in the hope that they'll get lucky, and often the bulls that we may see, the bachelor herds of bull that we may see at Djuma, will join along and tag on for a few days or weeks when a herd passes by, so you could say they're almost semi-retired. And naturally, with all these bulls and opportunities to mate, there's competition between them, and occasionally you do get to see them fighting. And Shanae has asked a question about buffalo and their fighting, and have there ever been any recorded cases? Now I'm not too sure if you mean here in the Sabi Sands, Shanae, or in general, but have there been any recorded cases of buffalo's horns becoming locked in a fight, similar to that of male kudus who've got corkscrew horns, who in some occasions do become interlocked, therefore causing both of the opponents to die an unceremonious death? And yes, I actually have seen photographs, at least on one occasion, of two buffaloes who had died with their horns interlocked. So it certainly is possible, Shanae. But I think it's more common with kudu because of their corkscrew shaped horns, which interlock a little bit easier than the buffalo's horns. I think we are in a fairly good spot here to await the herd. Well, you would have noticed a large variety in horn shapes of the various aged buffalo, and it's quite an interesting progression of growth. Initially, the young buffalo's horns will stick straight out of their head, but over time they will begin to loop lower down, like the adult buffalo that you can see, creating those large arches. And with age they do undergo a lot of changes, and Fiona is asking about a specific young bull that we may have seen earlier. I can't remember which one it was exactly, Fiona, but yes, they certainly will lower and drop kind of towards the ears as they do become older. Here's a good example here, Andrew, on the right, of a younger bull whose horns are still very upright, and he's kind of in the middle of all those buffalo, but it's hard to distinguish. There we go. And they will both widen and lower as he becomes older. This little youngster's horns have only just started to protrude. Well, it really is an overwhelming feeling being completely encompassed by this large herd of buffalo. It's a beautiful morning, not a breath of wind. The sun slowly beginning to poke out from the east above some clouds. And like I say, we don't get to spend time with these large herds very often, so this is really, really great stuff, and something that we don't get to share with you as often as we would like. Here comes the sunshine. Beautiful. You can hear the robotic calls of fork-tailed drongos. So it's not just the red-billed oxpeckers that you will see and hear following large herds of buffalo, but also the fork-tailed drongo. And the fork-tailed drongos have got a different agenda to the oxpeckers slightly. They're both interested in food, but the fork-tailed drongos will not feed directly off the buffalo as the oxpeckers will. They will rather wait for the buffalo to chase up insects. Oh, there, the oxpecker on the left was eating one. I think it's just trying to kill it. So it's holding it between its feet now, but it has successfully captured an insect which was flushed into the sky by the moving buffalo. Well, speaking of all the birds flying around here, we've got a wonderful question from Bree on Twitter. And Bree would like to know if the oxpeckers are territorial, and how far will they move in search of buffalo or other herbivores on which to feed. They will probably move huge distances in search of food, but they will probably have home bases where they head to. And thankfully, there's always going to be a number of various herbivores around. There may be times of plenty, like now when a large herd of buffalo moves through. But judging from their size and the fact that if there are not buffalo here, there will be other antelope and herbivores on which to feed off, that oxpeckers will not be required to move huge distances in search of food, unlike vultures, for example, who are designed to do that. So I don't think the oxpeckers will move big distances, especially in the breeding seasons when they'll have set cavities and trees in which they sleep. But wouldn't it be wonderful to know how far an oxpecker does move on a daily basis and how many different herbivores it feeds off? They can feed on up to 100 fully grown ticks a day as a rough estimate that studies have been done on. Now you can imagine how much good that is doing to not only the buffalo but all the other herbivores that these oxpeckers are flying to and feeding on, doing a great job in getting these blood-sucking parasites off them, and also having a great meal along the way that they are specialized in feeding on. It is basically the only thing they will feed on, barring open wounds that they sometimes do find on the animals, and that way they can almost just drink the blood and eat the scabs. Keeping them open and fresh, it's a toss-up as to whether they're doing a good job or a bad job, because like I say, they could be keeping the wound clean but allowing it to actually not allowing it to actually heal. Now there's about 5 fork-tailed drongos in view. The little blackbirds. And there's one that's just popped down to make a kill. Well, Brenda in Pennsylvania is interested to know what kind of damage do these buffalo cause to any of the camp surroundings. Do they push over fences? Are they a nuisance? These buffalo do only good for the environment, their hooves churning up soil and their droppings layering the earth with fertilizer. So having these large herds of buffalo moving through territories can be very useful for the soils and the nutrient cycle, and often their hooves will churn up the soil, allowing for new growth, almost like a plow. And they very seldom cause any trouble in and around camps. They don't push over fences, they don't cause trouble. Elephants, on the other hand, are the animal that cause most trouble for camps. They rip up water pipes and break into camps to get to fresh and untapped vegetation that often the camp will water and manicure so that the guests can enjoy beautiful surroundings. Elephants are very clever and can often find weaknesses in fences and water systems to get either fresh water or untapped resources, being manicured gardens within some of the camps. Not all of the camps will have fences around them, but a lot of camps will have elephant fences, which are basically 2 strands of electric fence that are quite high off the ground, which prevent elephant coming in, but allow just about every other animal other than giraffe to move through the camp. So it's just the elephants that camps are generally concerned about. And these buffalo actually are not even an issue to us on foot when they're in large herds. You may have heard us saying that buffalo can be very dangerous and an animal that you would not want to approach on foot. However, the large herds tend to be more accepting and forgiving of us on foot, and they actually often come up to us to investigate. It's the old bulls that we have to worry about, that are typically on their own in those small bachelor groups. Oh, there's a beautiful, beautiful dark sky out to the west, making for some dramatic scenery here on Arathusa this morning. What we're going to do now is we're going to try and loop ahead of these buffalo once again, and then just have a moment of silence and allow you to listen to the bush, listen to all the noises we can hear. There's a lot of noise coming from them. Andrew's going to have to pan the camera away from these guests so that they don't get embarrassed for being on TV around the world. Hello everyone.
Hello, how are you?
Very good, very good. It is.
I want to be on TV.
Well, I was wrong. You may have heard that young boy saying, "Is that on TV?" And he shouted that he wants to be on TV. Shame.
What a boy.
Okay. Well, we're just going to turn around here. What I'm going to do is again try and forecast their movements and then find a place to stop where we can just listen to the bush. I think this should do. So enjoy the moments of silence. Close your eyes, open your eyes, but enjoy the sounds that you're about to hear. Now, you may have heard a few different bird calls there. The short, sharp chirps that almost sound like a comb rubbing over a sharp corner are the oxpeckers, whereas the more robotic sounds are the fork-tailed drongos. So try and listen out for them. They're a little bit quiet at the moment, but they will peak and trough. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little moment of silence, and it's good just to let Mother Nature do the talking from time to time. We are gonna send you across from these feeding buffalo to another animal that is busy feeding on a buffalo. Enjoy.
Welcome back, everyone. And with most things, nothing stays secret in the bush for too long. There's a hyena has made its way back here. We're just trying to spot it. It's meandering around the edge of the carcass, or of the area. It can just make it through the trees. It's going to move through now, and one of the lionesses has spotted it and giving it sort of a 1,000-yard stare, trying to convince it not to come any closer. We did hear that sort of maniacal laugh a little bit earlier. You got it there, Brian?
Mm-hmm.
So let me just try to figure out a little bit to the left. A bit more, I think. I might miss it. He's gone a little bit. He's going further away. Let me try. I can't see it now. Both sides. So there is a hyena there, and the one lioness actually got up and moved off to the top of the termite mound over there, and to just give that hyena a sort of "don't you dare come any closer" look. And so what has happened since you guys have been gone? Two of the lionesses have started feeding again, and we are now trapped between lions because old young Junior decided to come lie literally right behind our car, so we can't actually move at the moment. And we've got these two ladies here, and the one is using that pile of sand and twigs and leaves that they use to cover the stomach contents. That's quite a convenient prop for that very fat belly. I'm just going to keep quiet and listen to the sound of them feeding for a little bit. I will wait for the other vehicle to stop. We'll wait for the vehicle to stop moving. So the buffalo that Pride managed to catch last night is quite an old buffalo, and Dara in Ohio was wondering how old was this buffalo. I guess he's probably 10 or 12 years old, so buffalo generally only live to about 15 in the wild, so he was past his breeding prime, and he was with a group of about 15 or 20 other old bulls. I know on camera last night we could only see about 3 or 4 running, but there were quite a few more in the area as well. So about 15 to 20, a group of buffalo bulls that he was part of. And the reason those buffalo bulls, even though once they leave those massive herds like you've been seeing with Scott, they form these little bachelor groups, and it is protection against lions. And sort of the odds are, if there's 15 of you, then you only have a 1 in 15 chance of being eaten. If there's 1 in you, that increases quite a lot. So have a look here, sorry. The other vehicle's gone, so we're just going to keep quiet so we can listen to that incredible sound of the lions feeding. So wasn't that incredible to hear those sounds? And what sounded actually like a bone crunching, that sort of, was actually that female using her premolars, the molars in front, to cut through that thick buffalo hide to get to the meat. And also in the background we had some wonderful birds. We had rattling cisticola, white-browed scrub robin, crested franklin. So quite a lot of noise as the morning warms up and the birds get going. But how unbelievable it was to hear that sort of power in those jaws as they cut through that incredibly thick buffalo skin. And young Junior is still lying behind us, not doing much. Or has he spotted the hyena? But it's, as I said, it smells more like a butchery, with the added sort of thing of sort of undigested grass and stomach content. But it doesn't smell that bad. So can you imagine what your local butcher smells like? If you had to go into the back, that's what it smelled like. And then while we're here, we can have a quick look at a lion's skull and the teeth that they're using. And you see how it doesn't have distinct flattened molars like a herbivore would, or an omnivore like us do. So these are these teeth here that they're using to cut through that thick hide of the buffalo, and then you see them turn their head to the side to use those teeth there. So the premolars and molars. And then the incisors, which are in the front, are what they use quite often to grip and pull that meat off there. So there we go. That's just a good idea. So you can actually see the shape of those teeth in the lion's mouth that they're using to do that cutting with. Oh, and here comes Junior. He might come in for the feed to see what... He's got a stick that's got caught in his mane that he's trying to remove. Seems to be getting quite frustrated with that little stick. We'll see if Junior's going to go in to feed. Looks like he's going to go greet. Oh, boom. There you go. A little bit of movement happening here. Just flopping down in a different spot because Junior has disturbed, and you can see how they completely ignore the vehicles. She is so close we can't even see her. You can actually start seeing the sort of inner workings of a buffalo now. And if we go in quite tight there, you can actually see the hip bone there to the left-hand lioness, and you can actually see the ball joint there at the beginning of the leg, and it's actually being pulled out at the moment. So there you can actually see that ball joint and the cartilage and how it moves and how it sits in there and it rotates as an animal would have moved. And then the lioness is eating the kneecap at the moment. So you can start seeing the sort of inner workings. Uh-oh, here comes trouble. Let's see if he's in a friendly mood or not. As I said, with a big carcass like this, there isn't going to be as much aggression as with a small carcass, but there could still be some. But look at that belly. I think if he ate much more, it would drag on the floor. Thinking about eating, even though he possibly might not be able to fit anything else in his belly. And also one of the fascinating things we're going to be able to witness while we're here, not only with the pride, but with this buffalo carcass itself, is how quickly and how much of it's going to be left. And Kay and Kathy have questions about the hide and the bones. So what will happen to the hide and what will happen to the bones, or who eat the bones? And very, very interesting that the hide will probably hang around for a while. They might eat some of it, but if they are very hungry or they decide that they need to, but quite a lot of the hide will just basically dry out and become a really sort of hardened thing, unless the hyenas get to it, which is also another possibility. And the hyenas might eat some of the hide and the bones, but some of the bigger bones in a buffalo would be even too strong for a hyena to break open. So they will definitely eat quite a lot of it, but the bones, the smaller bones, the lions would eat some of them, the hyenas would eat the rest, and then the rest of them would just slowly sort of disappear under the sort of harsh African elements, the sun, the weather, and those bones that are left out there provide an important source of calcium for the other animals there. So, I mean, we've seen Inyala, bushbuck, giraffe, all eating old buffalo bones at different times. And also then the small rodents would also make use of it, squirrels, gerbils, mice, and even porcupines. So, talking about what they'll eat, if we can get a little bit closer in on what's left of the head there, Ashley would like to know, would they eat the tongue? I'm pretty sure the tongue has already been eaten. Ashley, that would have been eaten last night already. You can see they've also eaten the cheek, the meat around the cheeks. So they've already eaten the tongue and the cheeks. Oh, tongue and cheek. Okay, I'll stop with the bad jokes. There we go, head disappearing inside buffalo. Oh, it looks like someone's arriving early on safari. Sorry about the aeroplane buzzing overhead. We unfortunately have no control. Just wait till the plane disappears before I get back to Kevin's question. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Kevin. He was on his final approach to the airstrip to the south of us. So Kevin would like to know, what's the closest waterhole to where we are at the moment, and would they go drink? And if they did, would this give the scavengers a chance to get in on the kill? I think probably the closest water hole, let me try to think, as the crow flies from here, would be Twin Dams. But it's likely, I don't think they're going to head to water from this carcass. It's always a possibility. With probably Twin Dams or Buffalo's Hook Dam. They're going to come also lie very close to us. No, first ablution break. But if they did go to take a break and go to have a drink, I'm pretty sure those hyenas would be in here in record speed. But lions, even though they like to drink, they don't actually need to drink. They are able to get enough moisture from whatever they kill to supply them with water. So it's something they like to do rather than need to do. Hello, lady. Lady, is this an appropriate place to lie? And look at me. Good morning to you too. You can see how she's almost going out like this with that belly so incredibly fat. So to give you an idea how close she is to us now, I would say she is less than a meter. Meter and a bit. As you can see, here's my shoulder and the door. And when animals choose to come this close to you by themselves, it's fine. We wouldn't try drive this close to her. She would probably move and run away, even if we started moving the car now. Or not run away, but move off. You can see dirty paws. She's seen Brian playing with his camera there, or a stick above Brian, and she just saw the movement and she picked up on it quite quickly. So as we can see a nice close-up on her face, and you can see one of the older lionesses. You can see that whiskers are quite short and broken, so this would be one of the older ladies. That is one of the ways to tell, even though they all look quite young and in good condition, she is a little bit older. And I know we get asked often about nose age, and you can see he has an oldish lion, probably around 10 years old, with a very much a pink nose. So if we go from her whiskers to Junior's whiskers, who's obviously quite young and not even in his prime yet. You can see he's got lovely long whiskers, not nearly as broken and as short as this female who's lying very close to us. Have a look here quickly if we can, Brian. Well, don't worry, she's folded her foot down. So we quite often see lions utilizing trees to stretch and get their nails in, There we go, there's a nice piece of rump. You can see that nice red meat there. So Dylan from West Des Moines is wondering, are there certain tree species that they like to sharpen their claws on? Dylan, we're going to get back to your question in a second in case we get a bit of aggression here. And a third line, or second lioness moving in. Oh. Well, they seem to be feeding quite amicably at the moment, but that can change in a second with lions. So in the meantime, we're going to go back to Dylan's question. Do they have certain tree species they prefer to sharpen their claws on? They're not really sharpening their claws so much as cleaning them. You get quite a lot of, you can imagine, putrefying meat and gunk stuck under their claws. And so when they are stretching on those trees, it is more to clean them than to sharpen them. And I haven't noticed a particular preference for any tree species. It just seems to be the one that is the right shape and closest by. So guys, we've been sitting with these lions for quite a long time. And obviously, I always love spending time with lions, but you guys are also on drive with me. So why don't you guys let me know, should we stay or should we go? And you can do that by sending an email to us at questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag #SafariLive on Twitter. Should we stay or should we go? Yes? Good. Hello, madam. Very, very close to us. It is absolutely incredible to have these apex predators, and you saw how much strength and power they have last night on the Sunset Safari. Literally less than a meter from my legs. And they look quite dopey at the moment. Full belly, having difficulty breathing, so much buffalo. Isn't it? Someone, the lioness that spotted that hyena is coming down from the termite mound. No, stopping for an ablution break behind the marula tree. Nope, not going to make it all the way. Poof. When this lioness is nice and relaxed there now, they're quite spread out. So we've got 3 feeding on the carcass. We've got that one there. We've got the one right next to us. Howdy, Mike from Florida, who's just tuned in. Mike would like a quick recap on what's going on. Well, very warm welcome, Mike. We're with the Nkuhuma Pride, who managed to bring down a buffalo mere meters away from us last night. It was an incredible experience, and it was wonderful to have so many of you on the back of the vehicle with us. We've spent so much time with Nkuhumas and watched them fail at so many hunts, It was just sort of about time, and law of averages said we were going to be there. But it was an absolutely incredible experience. And now we've been spending the morning with the rest of the pride as they are very fat and start feeding. And we'll continue to feed for a day or two over this carcass. We had a single hyena who's sniffing around. Maybe they'll come calling with a few friends later on this evening on the sunset safari. But for those of you who might be a new viewer, you can also ask us questions about what we're seeing here. And you can do that by emailing us, and the email address is questions@WildEarthTV, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So the general consensus is that we stay with these lions, so stay we shall. Marianne mentioned that the lioness who was lying right next to us would be sad if we left. Marianne, unfortunately, I think she wouldn't give two hoots whether we stayed or we left, and she's actually moved off away, deciding we were far too noisy and interfering with her nap time, and she's moved off to the front of the vehicle. We can hear a hyena in the distance. The front of the vehicle, probably looking for a nice spot to bed down for a nap. There we go. Well, now that she's moved, we're going to do the same. We're just going to try reposition so we can have a different view of what's going on at this buffalo carcass. So we haven't been able to move from this exact spot for such a long time because Junior walked up and slept behind us, and then we had the other lioness who came and lay next to us. So while we reposition, we're going to cross back to Scotty to check in with what he's been up to, and we'll be back with the lions just in a different spot.
Welcome into the Murakeni drainage system. We are slowly making our way towards Red Dam, and we've been moving through this area in the hope of finding any sign of Shadow, a female leopard, and her young male cub. They have had tracks of her in this area both yesterday and today, but no luck with finding her. So we thought we'd come and join in the search, and have yet to have any luck. But it really is a beautiful area to drive through here on Arathusa. We decided to leave the large herd of buffalo. There's a strong chance that they will pop out at the Arathusa waterhole where we've got a live cam with 24-hour feed. So I'm guessing in about the next hour or two they should arrive there for a drink, which will be wonderful to see in a big open area. But I don't think they're going to make it there during the broadcast. Probably at least an hour, 2, maybe even 3 hours until they get there. And interestingly enough, something we didn't touch on is that you may wonder who makes the decisions for the herd when there's so many of them involved. And interestingly, it's the females. A group of older, wiser females that have been termed pathfinders who jointly make the decisions in terms of which area to go and feed in, drink in, and where to move in general. So there's no set leader, but a group of the ladies who make the decisions as to where they go. And judging by the direction they're heading in, I'm guessing that the ladies have jointly decided to head off to the Arathusa waterhole for their next drink. Well, it is a frequently asked question, but one that we do need to keep addressing. And this time it's been asked from Dylan in West Des Moines. And good to have you with us, Dylan. Dylan's interested to know my opinions on habituation of animals like we have in this scenario here in the Sabi Sands. The animals have become relaxed with us as humans, mainly in the vehicles and not necessarily when we're walking around. And it's important to note that, Dylan, it's a very different scenario if we walk around this area compared to when we drive around. And the animals will typically act very differently to us when we are on foot. So there still is a high element of fear, and most of the times that we encounter animals on foot, they will actually run away. And that goes for all of them: lion, leopard, hyena, buffalo, elephants. 98% of the time that we encounter them, they will flee from us. So that's good. They still have a natural fear of us, which is very useful, so that none of us get caught up in their daily ongoings. But Dylan would like to know if we think it's good that the animals are habituated or bad. Should we just leave them be? In an ideal world, Dylan, there would be no humans on the planet and all of the animals would roam free without us disturbing them. But the fact of the matter is, we are here and we've already caused so much damage to their environments and their homes that what we can do now is just try our best to ensure that these safe havens still exist, and also try as best as we can to expand their natural havens and habitats. And it is possible, but like everything on this planet, money is required. Now, to keep the Sabi Sands wild area safe for the animals that roam around that we see on a daily basis, there need to be guests coming here, there needs to be revenue coming in. There aren't enough charities in the world to simply put up fences and keep habitats safe for animals. And the way that money can be created and a revenue, a sustainable revenue created, is through game viewing and ecotourism. And the impact that we have on the animals that we habituate is very, very small. There certainly will be an impact. We would be lying if we were saying it's as if we're not even here. Of course they know we're here, and from time to time, yes, we may slightly negatively impact on their daily ongoings, but our intentions are good, and by people being allowed to see these animals, it creates revenue to protect them. If nobody came on safari to Africa, there would be far, far less animals left, and most of them would have been killed, or their habitats would have been used for something else to gain revenue. And that's the world over. Land needs to somehow create money, and in this case, it's through game viewing. And if the animals were not relaxed in the Sabi Sands, then nobody would come here, and there would be no money to protect the area that they live in and the animals themselves. It's not only habitats that are under threat, but also the fact that a lot of animals are poached for various reasons, be it meat, ivory, rhino horn, and money that is gathered and revenue that is created from ecotourism can therefore be pumped back again to not only protect their habitat, but for anti-poaching purposes, have anti-poaching teams that can protect the animals and even create awareness. If nobody saw the animals that we see on a daily basis, how would you fall in love with them, and how would you be more inclined to conserve them if you didn't know about them and you didn't have the opportunity to fall in love with them? So I think it's critical that animals are habituated. Yes, there certainly will be some parts of Africa that are very remote, and those animals will still have a touch of the wild side and not even tolerate a vehicle driving up to them, and that's great. But those are few and far between, and the reality is habituation is required in order for animals to be looked after. So I hope that answers your question, Dylan. It is something I feel strongly about, and as long as it's done correctly and ethically, there should be no problem with habituating animals. That little pond we just drove past was called Red Dam here on Arethusa, and Tingana, a male leopard, was seen very close to here yesterday. His tracks evidently headed straight east into Djuma, but we had no luck in tracking him down. He could still be there. but it is also a waterhole that Shadow and Sindile frequents. For those of you who just joined, sadly you may have missed out on a wonderful sighting of a massive herd of buffalo, probably 200 to 300 of all different shapes and sizes. And Edward noticed that a lot of them had very frayed and tatty ears, and he's wondering what would be the cause of this. Would it be branches snagging onto their ears, or would it be from fights? I think it's a combination of things. You could imagine a buffalo getting a fright from a lion in the dark, tearing off through this quite rough and rugged vegetation. There's a strong chance that it could tear its ears as it passes through, running away wildly from the lion. But also, certainly, especially with the males, fighting will be a large cause of their tattered ears. Their ears are right in the firing line of those horns of the other buffalo as they connect. So it'll be certainly a combination of the two. Running away from lion, getting snagged on a lot of hardwoods, and certainly from fighting with the males. And speaking of previous sightings of this morning, it's been a wonderful morning. We got lucky at the hyena den site a little bit earlier on at the start of drive, and saw a lot of interesting interaction between different clan members. And Kevin's interested to know what's causing that. Is possibly one of the hyena trying to overthrow another? Yes, that is possible. But what is also possibly happening is that it may not be an overthrow that we're witnessing, but it may well just be the continuation of keeping hierarchy in place, certain dominant figures maintaining dominance, and also possibly protecting of future dominance, in that there may be a young cub who's been born into the hierarchy of a future queen, but an older sister also in that same lineage may be jealous of this new threat, even though it's a lot younger than her, and therefore the mothers may get involved and try and chase off the next queen to be, just to make sure she doesn't kill the following queen in line. So there's so much that's unknown about hyena, and there's still a lot of research being done on the topic. So like I say, we can only guess as to what is going on there, but certainly, Kevin, there has been some very interesting behavior, and we've only started noticing it since this new cub arrived, and maybe it's been happening beforehand when we have not been there. And even though we're out here daily, we're only out for a quarter of the day, and of that quarter of the day, how much time do we allocate to any one animal? So it is difficult for us just to assume that because we haven't seen it, things haven't been happening. Okay, now some of you may have noticed that lions spend a lot of time sleeping, as do leopard, and Declan would like to know, are hyena in a similar boat? Do they also have a kind of 16 to 20 hour a day sleep pattern? I would say yes, in general they do sleep many hours of the day, and like other carnivores, they will try and maximize their times of movement to try and be efficient in finding food. But hyena will move huge distances, and I'm inclined to say that they will not be quite as lazy as the leopard or the lion. They're designed to cover huge distances, and they certainly will move massive distances when they are awake, but they do spend a lot of time sleeping. There's no doubt about that. The station's back on Vuyatela. No major updates from Safari. Just a Makulu Flampenyari heading towards the Arethusa Dam. Morning, Brent. Just touching in with my sidekick. Copy, thank you very much. And Brent has kindly given me updates as to what's going on here on Djuma, as we operate on a different radio channel here, and that way there's not too much radio chatter. The guides in this specific area will chat on this radio, and the guides in Arethusa and to the west of there will chat on another one. It's still going to be close enough. Look at how beautiful this bird is. Wonderful. Looking for breakfast, glistening in the morning sunlight. This is a green woodhoopoe, and when the sun catches it on the correct angle, they do glisten a wonderful green. It's also formerly known as the red-billed woodhoopoe. Great. I've been wanting to show you one of those birds up close for quite some time now, and finally we got lucky. Yesterday the birds were giving me a proper run around and weren't interested in any of our plans, but that happens from time to time. And for those of you who haven't started your bird list yet, I think a number 1 green woodhoopoe on the top of your list would be a good way to start, and it really is a good way to open up your eyes to the birding world, and it really can be fun. And it's a great way, once you do have a list, just to kind of naturally compete with yourself and try and keep adding new names to the list, and that way that'll keep us pressured to keep trying to find you new birds. So it's a two-way story, the live safari experience, and it's important that we are both interacting together with one another. It's certainly not a one-sided affair, and if we get your bird lists and get your comments and requests, it certainly will help pressure us to up the tempo for you. Now, speaking of live safari, for those of you who are not aware, you can communicate with us and let us know your thoughts and questions. It's very easy. You hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@WildEarthTV, and it is getting hot now that the sun has been out for a few minutes. Whew. Well, I'm humbled by your kind words regarding answering of Dylan's question earlier about habituation of animals. I'm glad you liked it, some of you at least, and thanks for sending through that positive feedback. It really does make a big difference to us out here. And speaking of habituation and animals that are not going to run away from the vehicle, let's go and see what the Nkuhuma Pride are up to at the moment.
Welcome back, everyone, and there you can actually see the head of the buffalo. And I said the cheek and bones had been eaten, and we also got asked whether the tongue had been eaten. And you can see there's no tongue. They would have come in from underneath and removed that last night sometime. And you can also see the eyes have also been eaten. So did a good job around the head. They haven't quite got to the neck in that yet, but there you can see sort of the deconstruction of a buffalo skeleton happening live here in the African bush. And the surgeons who are doing it are the Nkuhuma Pride. And there we go. There's young Junior who's chewing on the hip, and one of the lionesses lying next to him. And so also, you must remember, we are live. We are watching this in real time. You are watching a pride of lions in the middle of the African bush feed on an African buffalo or a Cape buffalo. We also are able to take questions about what you're seeing, and you can do that by emailing us at questions@WildEarthTV, or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. You can actually see him there. He's chewing on the joint. He might be trying to get a bit of marrow out of there, and he's using those molars and premolars as a cutting and crushing tool in that situation there. So maybe I didn't explain what was happening earlier well enough. So apparently a lot of you guys wanted to stay because you were waiting to see a lion-hyena clash. That's probably, I'm almost 100% certain, not going to happen during the day or this morning. If it does happen, it'll be on the sunset safari. The hyenas are sort of staying at about 100 meters away. There's only one we've seen so far, and did a bit of a call and a cackle, trying to incite a bit of excitement from the other hyenas. And I think more than likely it's either going to happen tonight or tomorrow. Tomorrow is probably a better bet. Once the lions have eaten a bit more, the hyenas might think that they won't defend the carcass as well. So I'm quite sure there will be hyenas keeping tabs on the lions here throughout the day and possibly throughout the night as well. But I don't think they're going to rush in to attack yet. There's only one hyena that we've seen in the vicinity, possibly two. And I would say for a pride of this big, you would probably need at least 10 or 15 hyenas to push to push them off. But it is quite nice watching them feed and seeing how they utilize those incredible teeth of theirs. So, as you notice, there doesn't seem to be too much blood on the faces of these lions. And Dave's commented he's amazed at how clean they look. And why isn't there any blood all over their face? So, Dave, that would have happened last night when they first opened up the stomach. Most of the blood would have already been drunk and drunk by now. And probably for an hour afterwards, they would have had very bloody faces. But at the moment, and so they would have had that initial feed and glut, basically, of putting as much meat in their bellies as possible, as quickly as possible. And then afterwards, there probably would have been quite a bit of grooming and sort of laying about and social grooming to reaffirm those the pride structures and bonds between the different individuals. And that's where they would have cleaned off a lot of that blood from their faces. So we're going to cross quickly to Scotty, who's got one of our feathered friends who would probably be the first to have spotted this buffalo carcass on their movements once they get moving this morning.
Welcome back, and fear not, we are going to show you this bird. It just flew over us, you missed it by a second. It was a battler eagle, and Andrew was just saying he wanted to film a raptor, and it popped out and flew straight over us, but has continued away sadly. Now watch closely, you'll see it teetering from side to side. There we go. Now those little teeters will be uncommon on other birds of prey who are fortunate to have longer tails than the battalier, but because of their very short tail, they will often have that characteristic teeter from side to side. So even though you didn't get a good view of the bird, you've got a good idea of how to now identify it if we see one flying past. And it also is a reason why it got its name, the battalier. It originates from a French word called pastel, which means entertainer or acrobat, and you could just imagine a tightrope walker on a trapeze trying to balance, teetering from side to side. Anyway, I'm glad you got a glimpse of it, but we're going to send you back to Brent, and we might see you with some more feathered friends a little bit later.
Welcome back. Unfortunately, it seems the battaliers are playing a lot of tricks with Scott, but fortunately you guys did manage to get a glimpse of it. And they have an incredible eyesight. They fly quite a lot lower than the vultures and that's why they have that shortened tail, and you get that incredible sort of tightrope balancing effect. And I'm quite sure that they will spot this. They might not come down on this carcass just because the lions are still present. But I'm quite sure a battalier has already spotted this and is morning patrol. So there's impala alarming. We're just going to keep quiet for a second. The lions heard it and took little notice. I think it's a little bit far away unless one of the lions has decided to move off in that direction. So we're going to have a quick look. We will come straight back to the lions here. But who knows, there might be a leopard or something else just a little bit behind where these lions are at the moment. So you never know what happens out here in the bush. As you can see, while we've been sitting with the lions, probably about 100 meters away, I can hear impala alarming. So I'm just going to shoot there quickly and have a quick look. Ooh, stump, we don't want to hit that. And then we'll come straight back to those lions on the carcass. Alright, that's what it is. The lions have come to lie on the cool of the road, and I didn't see where these ones were lying, and we've got the impala directly behind them. And that's what the alarm calling's at. Is that good for you here, Brian? Say when? There we go. And if we have a look up the road, we've got these lions lying in the cool sand of the road. And if we go up, there we go, we've got the impala snorting straight at them. Isn't that quite a wonderful sight? And you can see there what we talk about quite often when impala and other sort of prey species spot a predator like a lion or a leopard, and they realize that they're not actually a threat at the moment, they will stand and look at them and sometimes even walk closer to them while they snort. There we go, you heard the impala. That is quite an awesome shot. I hope you guys are getting some good screenshots of that. Nice to see lion and impala together. And for once, I think the impala not too perturbed about these lions. As you can see, as I said, they sometimes will walk closer to inspect to make sure that they're not a threat. So the lions have moved away from the carcasses now. Obviously, in the early morning, these roads will still be the sand will be quite cold, and they're taking advantage of that cool sand to lie on, the same way they would utilize a riverbed. And you can actually see this female close to us here. I mean, that belly is grotesquely large. I mean, it must be incredibly uncomfortable having a belly that full. Sorry guys, I'm just having a quick look for my shkogo. And those who are wondering what a shkogo is, it is the Zulu word for a hat. Now there's something that I don't even know how to spell. At least I can say it. So you can see the impala quite relaxed. They've even started feeding again, even though they can see a lion. So we're going to cross across to Scotty quickly so he can bid you adieu, and we will be back with you for the last few minutes, and we'll spend them with the Nkuhuma Pride.
Well, it sounds like you've just had a wonderful, wonderful shot of the lion and the impala. And I must say, from time to time we do get jealous of one another on the different vehicles. And aren't you guys lucky to be able to always be in the action? It's sadly coming to a close, this sunrise safari, but it certainly has been another very interesting episode of Mother Nature's ongoings out here, and it's been wonderful to share it with you. I must say a big thank you to Andrew on camera, as well as to Tara in the final control room, and Nikki, who's been lending her a hand. Something to hopefully look forward to this afternoon is the incorporation of Stefan being on foot, and we are still fine-tuning that walking backpack, but it will hopefully be up and running, and we'll be sending you a live feed from on foot here on Djuma and Arathusa. So that's something to look forward to on the sunrise. But until then, a big thank you for following, and back to Brent. We'll see you all a little bit later.
Welcome back. So there's impala moved off, so we'll make our way for the last few minutes back to the carcass. So, a curious one would like to know whether they've turned the carcass over yet. And here is the amber-eyed lioness, and she started feeding. They haven't yet. It looks to be in the same position as it was when they brought it down last on the sunset safari. It'll take them a while before they are able to eat enough meat. I'm sure Junior is possibly strong enough to turn the carcass, but the lionesses might want to wait for a little bit more meat to be devoured before they do that. So, for the last little bit before we disappear, we're just going to give you a quick little recap. It's been an incredible week. We've spent probably close on, I'm guessing, over 10 hours with the Nkuhuma Pride, waiting for them to make a kill. We've watched them chase buffalo, we've watched them stalk Nyala, and they just haven't managed to get that success. And then last night, we spent probably a good 2 hours with absolutely flat cats. And then for that last hour was this most incredible action. And being able to see the kill from start to finish is such an amazing experience and not something we get to do very often. And so it's been a long week of lions, but a very successful week for the lions. They were quite hungry when they started, and it's nice to see them with nice big fat bellies. So from Brian and myself, thanks very much for joining us, and we've had an absolutely splendid time around the carcass today, and it's not often that you can say, and not many people can say, they enjoy hanging around dead buffaloes, but we do. And we're gonna leave you now, and we're gonna leave you with the lions. So make sure to join us for the sunset safari. Who knows, the hyenas might be on their way. So have a wonderful day or morning wherever you might be in the world.